Welcome back to the channel where we are studying O-Level Biology 5090. We are currently on Chapter 16, Development of Organisms and Continuity of Life. After completing Unit 16.1 on Nuclear Division and Unit 16.2 on Asexual and Sexual Reproduction, today we will move on to the next unit, 16.3, which focuses on sexual reproduction in plants. In this section, we will go through the syllabus specifications one by one and understand each concept step by step. Since there are several specifications to cover, this will be quite an extensive part of the chapter. So, let's begin. So, we begin with specification number 1, which asks us to identify and draw the sepals, petals, stamens, including anthers and filaments, and carpels, including the stigma, style, ovary, and ovules, of an insect-pollinated flower. But before identifying these parts, we first need to understand what an insect-pollinated flower actually is, and, to understand that clearly, we need to look at the overall process of sexual reproduction in plants. So, let's first explore how sexual reproduction occurs in flowering plants. Reproduction in plants takes place in the flower, which functions as the plant's reproductive organ. Most flowers contain both male and female structures required for reproduction. The male reproductive part is the stamen, which consists of the anther and the filament. The anther produces pollen grains that contain the male gametes, while the filament supports and positions the anther. The female reproductive part is the carpel, which includes the stigma, style, ovary, and ovules. The stigma receives pollen, the style connects the stigma to the ovary, and the ovules inside the ovary contain the female gametes or egg cells. Because pollen grains cannot move by themselves, plants depend on pollination, which is the transfer of pollen from the anther to the stigma. This transfer is usually carried out by agents such as insects, birds, or wind, and flowers have special adaptations based on their method of pollination. After pollination, fertilization occurs when the male and female gametes fuse inside the ovule. This fusion forms a zygote, completing the process of sexual reproduction in plants. Now let's look at the definition to better understand pollination. Pollination is the process in which pollen grains are transferred from the anther, the male part of the flower, to the stigma, the female part. This transfer is necessary for fertilization because it allows the male gametes in the pollen to reach the female gametes present in the ovules. So, basically, pollination is the process in which pollen grains from the male part of a flower, the anther, are transferred to the female part, the stigma, either of the same flower or another flower. When the anthers mature, they split open and release tiny pollen grains that contain the male reproductive cells. There are two main types of pollination, insect pollination and wind pollination. Pollen grains are carried to the stigma by agents such as insects like bees and butterflies, or by the wind. This transfer may occur within the same flower, between flowers on the same plant, or between flowers of different plants, which helps promote genetic diversity. Successful pollination allows fertilization to occur, leading to the formation of seeds and ensuring the continuation of the plant species. Now, let's look at the two types of pollination in more detail. Plants use two main types of pollination to continue their life cycle. First, let's discuss insect pollination. In insect-pollinated plants, insects visit flowers to collect pollen or nectar. As they land on the flower, their bodies come into contact with the anthers, and pollen grains stick to them. When the insect moves to another flower, the pollen on its body touches the sticky stigma, enabling fertilization. These flowers are usually brightly colored or scented to attract insects, and their structures are specially adapted to ensure efficient transfer of pollen. And the second type is wind pollination. In wind-pollinated plants, pollen is released from exposed anthers and carried by the wind to other flowers. These flowers are usually small, green, or leaf-like and do not produce nectar since they do not rely on insects. The stigmas are feathery and extend outward to catch airborne pollen, while the light, smooth pollen can travel long distances through the air. This method allows pollen to reach other flowers without the help of animals.